And at the other end of the Ford stand in Frankfurt was the area reserved for Aston Martin, another English feather in the cap of the Premier Auto Group, remember, and another one with a new model.
Ladies and gentlemen, together with the team of Aston Martin, I am delighted to introduce the coolest car on the planet, the Aston Martin DB9.
Once again, this is demonstrably an exercise controlled not from England, but by European executives from Ford in Germany. For some reason, it always seemed that Aston Martin had carried off its marriage with Ford rather better than Jaguar, and it always seemed that Aston Martin products looked much better than the Jaguar version. Prejudice? Price? Clever marketing and design, or a combination of all three? Whatever the reason, there's no doubt that Aston Martin certainly has enjoyed the kind of turnaround that Jaguar was hoping for. Ford purchased 75% of Aston Martin in the late 80s, and when it began installing Ford executives in key positions a few years later, production was falling from 5 cars a week to an all-time low of just 43 completed and sold in 1993. Right now, its resurgence is on target to make 5,000 cars a year from 2006 onwards, and to be competing for customers with Porsche and Ferrari once again. This is the DB9, and it has the difficult task of replacing the DB7, which not only became the best-selling model in Aston Martin history, but also saved it from what looked like financial disaster and certain closure. And that was despite being criticised for its somewhat outdated engineering and consequent unlovely dynamics. The new car represents such an improvement over the existing model that Aston Martin chose to designate it not DB8, as would have been logical, but DB9 to highlight the big step forwards. The backbone of the changes is quite literally the backbone, an aluminium composite affair that's helped the designers create a body shell 25% lighter than steel, but twice as strong. And indeed, it's this frame in a shortened version that will carry the new baby Aston in 2 years' time. New styling for the 9 is, from where we're sitting anyway, about as perfect as it could be. It's fresh, it's modern, and it's unarguably Aston Martin with every visual cue a fan could ever hope for. This is not a car that's ever going to feature in a quiz based on close-up photographs of bodywork details. Every tiny piece of it is standout recognisable. But it will have to be at a standstill for you to do that. With 450 horsepower from a revised version of the two Mondeo V6's screw-together V12, it has a top speed of 186 miles an hour, and with an all-up weight of 1,700 kilos, jumps from park to breaking the law on motorways in about 5 seconds. It does have a manual gearbox, but this is intended as a grand tourer, and for crossing continents, most owners are likely to prefer the 6-speed automatic with its paddle shifts behind the steering wheel. The other area of the DB7 that was open to criticism was the interior, but the new car does away with that one completely. Dark leather, brushed aluminium, new faces for the dials. This is what an Aston Martin is meant to look like, smell like and feel like, and there's unlikely to be a word of criticism about the interior unless you try to take 2 grown-ups any great distance in the back seat. It's billed as a 4-seater, and it does indeed have 4 seats, in the same way as a 911 has 4 seats. 2 in front for driver and passenger, and 2 in the back, just big enough for their hat and gloves. But it's a proper Aston Martin. It's only a bit more than 100 grand. It's bound to sell well. And we haven't even mentioned 007 yet.